In April 1995, a man named McArthur Wheeler walked into two Pittsburgh banks in broad daylight, no mask, no disguise, and smiled for the cameras, because he was certain lemon juice had made his face invisible to the lens. He was caught within hours, and 30 years later, the scientists who built an entire field around his case still cannot explain the strangest part. The less a person understands, the more certain they become that they understand everything. Pittsburgh police pulled the surveillance tape first. Wheeler's face is unobscured, clear, almost cheerful. He'd read that lemon juice works as invisible ink. He reasoned if it hides writing from the eye, it should hide a face from a camera. He tested it, rubbed juice on his skin, snapped a Polaroid, saw nothing in the frame because the camera was out of focus. That was proof enough. Cornell psychologists David Dunning and Dunning-Kruger heard about the case in a newspaper clipping. In 1999, they built a study to test something specific, not whether people are wrong, but whether the wrong ones know it. The results didn't just confirm incompetence. They revealed a pattern nobody had measured before. Subjects ranked in the bottom quartile on logic tests, grammar tests, even tests of humor, placed themselves near the 60th percentile every time. Not modest error, not random noise. A consistent, repeatable gap between what the lowest performers did and what they believed they'd done. And the gap didn't shrink as the material got harder. It widened. The less skill a person had, the wider the space between performance and self-assessment stretched, as if confidence and competence were moving in opposite directions on purpose. The obvious explanation came fast. These are just arrogant people. Low ability, high ego, the kind of overconfidence you'd expect from anyone who never learned enough to be humbled. Wheeler, under that theory, was simply not bright enough to know better, a punchline, not a puzzle. Case closed, you'd think. Chalk it up to stupidity and move on. Except Dunning-Kruger's data broke that theory almost immediately. The same effect showed up in intelligent, educated adults, doctors, lawyers, chess players, the moment they stepped outside their trained domain. It wasn't a personality flaw confined to the unintelligent. It was domain-specific and it was mechanical. And here's what makes it impossible to dismiss as ego. The researchers found the exact mirror image at the top of the scale. The highest performers, the ones who scored in the 90th percentile, consistently underestimated themselves, assuming everyone else found the test just as easy. Confidence wasn't tracking arrogance. It was tracking something broken in the machinery of self-assessment itself, on both ends of the curve. That machinery is called metacognition, the ability to judge your own thinking. And the deepest problem researchers uncovered is a closed loop with no exit. The same skill required to answer a grammar question correctly is the skill required to know whether you answered it correctly. If that skill is missing, it's missing twice, once in the performance, once in the judgment of the performance. You cannot use a broken ruler to measure whether the ruler is broken. Later brain imaging work pointed to the anterior prefrontal cortex, a region tied to monitoring your own certainty, showing measurably different activity in people with poor self-insight. But identifying the region didn't produce a fix. Even when researchers showed bottom quartile subjects the correct answers afterward, side by side with their own wrong ones, many still rated their performance as strong. Wheeler wasn't uneducated or friendless. He held a job. He passed as ordinary. His error wasn't built from knowing nothing. It was built from knowing just enough about invisible ink to feel certain, and not enough about optics to be wrong safely. So other explanations were tried, and each one failed differently. Statisticians argued it was regression to the mean, a mathematical artifact of comparing self-ranking to an average, and that explains part of the curve, but it doesn't explain why Wheeler needed a second bank to test the theory again. Cross-cultural psychologists proposed it was Western individualism, ego inflation baked into American self-image, but East Asian study samples showed the opposite distortion, competent people underselling themselves, an asymmetry with no clean explanation either. Educators proposed the simplest fix: just teach better feedback. Training studies did improve calibration briefly. Weeks later, the same subjects drifted back toward their original blind confidence, as if some baseline kept resetting itself, uncorrected. No one has found the mechanism that would let a mind reliably see its own blind spot on command and keep seeing it. Wheeler's case file closed in under a day. The question his case opened has stayed open for 30 years. If the tool you'd use to detect your own ignorance is the very tool that's missing, what would it even feel like from the inside right now to be wrong about this and not know it?